Hey team, this is Sherman from Geek Psychology, and this video is on 10 pegs. This is an easy memory hack, a mnemonic technique that you can use to remember lists of 10 things. It can be expanded to more. There are ways of going about it, but in this video I'm going to just talk about the 10 basic pegs that you can kind of hang information on so that you can remember it. This works, like I said, for lists. It can work for bigger things like for speech preparation, birthdays, all that kind of stuff. Somebody's name, perhaps. There are many ways of using it, so make sure that you bring in your imagination when you're using this technique, and it can go a long way. So let's look at it. So let's talk about the problem here. And this is the reason why I learned this technique, is because I have an awful memory, especially for lists, for statistics, for birthdays, those kind of things, facts, data, all that stuff. It just doesn't sit well in my brain. Like I struggle with the motivation to keep that in my head. Whereas I've met many people, I have a lot of good friends that are very good at that, at learning that kind of information and retaining it. There's a personality type explanation for that, but I'm not going to get into it too much in this video. But it's something that I struggle with, that I feel like I'm a 10-year-old in that realm of things. So I needed a technique, a way to remember these things. And it's also something that I've aspired to gain more access to, more control over. And I know that it's not just me. So I want to share this technique with everybody else. Because, sometimes paper isn't available. And also, you shouldn't always rely on paper notes or on your phone, whatever it is. Especially for speeches, things that you might need to react a little bit more on the fly to. And you don't want to just be like, wait 1 second, let me pull out this paper and see how it goes, right? And to be able to retain that information using these mnemonic techniques, these memory hacks, it feels good, at least for me anyway. So you might want to try it. I'm going to give you the technique on how to do it. And so before actually getting into the technique for it, it's important to understand how your memory works a little bit, and how to get it to work for you or with you, instead of trying to work against it. So we naturally remember things that are more vibrant, more unique, more absurd, more emotionally charged, has some feeling, sadness or happiness or whatever to it. So we want to make the things that we're trying to remember, the images of them, stand out in whatever way we can. Make it big, make it flashy, make it colorful, make it very unique, very special, make it really sad or something even, just so that your mind can remember it with more ease. If you're just like, I want to remember paper, well, paper is not like something very amazing, not something that stands out as much. But if you imagine a giant piece of paper that's like walking around terrorizing a city, well, then the idea of paper is going to be easier for you to link to and to remember. And so there's another layer to that, which I'll get into right now. And so there's another layer to that. Before that, you need a list. And, I could have just made it like a grocery list or something like that. Like, I want flour, sugar, milk, butter, eggs. But I figured I should use it to explain something that has a little bit deeper impact possibly on your life, depending on your interests. And so we have this list right here of 10 things. These are all about extroversion. So you can maybe assume that you have a test or something, and you want to learn about extroversion. What is that? What does it mean? What are some of the traits or behaviors that come from extroversion? And so I have this list written up here. And if you were to just memorize this without any technique, I think you would have to put in a lot of rote memorizing time. You'd have to go over it again and again. Outward focused, outward focused, outward focused, outward focused. Repeating, writing it down again and again, perhaps. And that is one way of going about it. But it's, personally for me, it's not something that keeps my interest. And it feels like it's more work than it has to be. So this is the actual technique right here. And it's super simple. You're creating words that rhyme that have images attached to them. So one rhymes with gun, or bun, or none, whatever your choice is. There are tons of words that rhyme with all these other words. These are the ones that I chose with one slight alteration to make this appropriate. You can figure that out on your own. But one gun, so imagine a gun. Picture a gun. It could be a very big gun. I mean, that's going to stick out better. But it doesn't have to be something truly impressive or unique for this list. Because the items that we just talked about for extroversion are the things that you really need to make outstanding. But anyway, just you can remember this based on the rhyming words that come about as well. 1 gun, 2 shoe, 3 tree, 4 boar, 5 hive, 6 sticks, 7 heaven, 8 date, 9 wine, 10 hen. You probably already remembered those, right? So we're going to use those as the pegs that we attach the ideas to that we're trying to remember. If it was, like I was talking about before, flour, sugar, milk, butter, whatever, you could imagine a gun shooting flour out of it and exploding all over somebody's face or whatever. And then shoe, sugar, you could imagine somebody pouring sugar on a shoe and then eating the shoe. So it's absurd, it's unique, it's a little wild, and you use that to remember. But let's attach it to these extroversion ideas so that you can remember what extroversion means. All right? So right here I've put the peg, for example, gun, and then the extroversion list item, and then a simple way of remembering it. So for me, this is how I did it. Your imagination is your imagination, and the more unique, the more tuned into how you work and how you think that you make these images, the better it's going to be for you. But here we go. So 1 gun, outward focused. Well, I just imagine a gun shooting outward. It could even be shooting the word out of the gun. And just make it really odd in that sense. And so then when you think of, okay, what is extroversion? 1 gun. Oh, it's shooting outward. It's not going inward. It's going outward. So then you can remember that extroverts focus their attention outside of themselves. 2, shoe. Energized from the outside. Extroverts get energy from being in the world, getting feedback from the world, interacting with things. So you have, my image was a solar-powered shoe. It's getting charged by the sun, by the outer world, by the environment. And the shoe is, getting charged, is heating up. Maybe it's pulsing, maybe it's changing colors. And so then when you think of 2, shoe, what could it be? You have this image of a shoe, you have the solar panels attached to it and the sun beating down on it. Then you can recall the idea, the concept of it being charged outwardly by something outside of itself. But these are my ideas, like I said. Next, 3, tree. Initiators. Extroverts initiate interactions more than sitting back and waiting for them to happen. This is just it's It's a generic behavior, but it might be helpful to understand when you're talking to an extrovert. That means they're also less hesitant of new experiences. Okay, so then when you're looking for the third item and you can't remember what it is, you can tree. Oh, there's this big tree. Okay, and then you remember this line of people, waiting to climb the tree for whatever reason. Maybe there's gold up at the top. I don't know. And then one person runs over there, jumps in front, climbs up the tree. You're like, oh yeah, that's kind of the energy that extroversion brings. 4, bore, projected voice or broadcasting. So imagine, I love the idea of a bore. It just sticks out with me, like tearing through a house or something like that. Maybe it could be a bore that shoots out a sonic boom when it opens its mouth. Like it just knocks everybody away, knocks the house apart, whatever it is. Or if you wanted to focus on the broadcasting aspect, you could think of maybe satellite dishes attached to this giant bore, or even a really small bore that's spying on people, but it has satellite dishes attached to it. Whatever works for you, 5, hive, animated, big gestures, and not be as self-contained, I suppose. And so if you think of that, you picture a hive, like a giant beehive. Then you can imagine somebody flailing, or yourself flailing around, swinging your arms as you're running around the beehive to escape these cartoon bees. 6, sticks. Extroverts use we tribe language. So if you think of maybe sticks laying in the sand in a beach or something, and maybe there's a tribe of people dancing around the sticks, and the sticks spell out we, everybody's yelling we. Then you understand that extroverts are trying to communicate using language, things that other people can readily relate to and understand. 7, heaven, after thinkers. So it means that extroverts engage in the world first, then they bring that information back in and reconcile it and process it after engaging with it, after getting some sort of feedback. So you can think of maybe when people go to heaven, they're contemplating their life. So they're floating on these big clouds in heaven, and they're thinking about all their past experiences, and they're after thinking. 8, date, big fish in a small pond. Maybe you wanted to memorize a quote, something simple, some sort of, quote like that. You could imagine 2 fish on a date. One is really well known. Everybody is walking up and talking to this other fish, or other fish are swimming up and blubbing and talking to this one fish, and they're getting a lot of attention, and the other one is kind of the small fish in a big pond. So just that image could get you to springboard into other ideas as well. 2 more, wine. 9, wine, objective. So it means that extroverts are not bringing the information in and processing it based on how they personally feel about it or their past experiences, their subjective impressions of it. It's objective. But an easy way to remember that is to possibly see this giant picture or painting. I think a picture is more accurate, but a picture of wine stanchioned off. It has those poles with ropes, blocking it off. Maybe it's in an art museum or something like that, but it's this giant, very vibrant picture that people are looking at from afar. It's not them tasting the wine. It's not them feeling the wine inside of themselves as much as it is seeing it from a slightly distanced perspective. And the last one, 10, hen, merge with outside. So whatever is going on outside of themselves, there's this tendency to kind of sacrifice your standpoint on things in order to embrace what is going on outside of you, so that you can learn about the quote-unquote reality of the world outside of yourself. So merging with what is going on outside. But if you just wanted to remember the words merge with outside, you could think of a hen that maybe sees something sees a door, and then it merges with the door and it becomes this hen door monster. And then the door is walking around and it sees something a little bit bigger. Maybe it sees a house that's a lot bigger, but then it merges with that and it becomes this door hen house thing, and it gets bigger and bigger. And the cycle continues as it merges with, again and again, what's going on outside of itself. So that is the mnemonic device called PEGS. It's the simple 10-peg version. There are larger, more complicated versions that are also very helpful, and I like them too, but this is an easy one to just kind of get your hands on and play with it and see how it works for you. Just to recap, use the pegs: 1 gun, 2 shoe, 3 tree, 4 bore, and make the images as unique and appealing as possible, and have fun with it. Let your imagination go, because that's going to stick. That's going to stay in your mind. And review it. Review is still important, but you can do it pretty quickly just using the PEG system. So then you can go back and be like, 4 bore, oh yeah, it's broadcasting, it's satellites, it's this sonic boom of expression. Okay, I got that, I remember that. And then you can talk about it, right? Because you're trying to remember. A lot of times the idea will get you to a point that you can express it more. If it's a grocery list, then it can be more concrete, tangible items. All right, so I hope it was helpful. Good luck, have fun. Thanks. See you in the next video.